This podcast is brought to you by Prudential. Bring your challenges.
Delvin Joyce, Managing Director of Prudential Advisors.
What's that involve, Delvin?
What does that involve?
But yes.
So I manage and supervise financial advisors in Southeast Florida. I manage them from a compliance standpoint as well as I do training and recruitment to the firm.
You know, when you talked about your study, you talked about the two new subsets you were looking at. What prompted you guys to look at caregivers and veterans?
Well, if you look at the changing demographics of the United States, one of those demographics that's changing is the sandwich generation. And there are people that are in a position where they're having to not only take care of children, but also take care of their parents at the same time. So we wanted to study caregivers as a new subset to see if there are any additional insights as it relates to money and finance for that group. The other one, obviously, veterans have come out of military conflict and how do they transition into civilian life, and are there any key insights that we could take away from that group as they transition into civilian life as it relates to money and finance?
Did you find some special needs for that group that they needed to look at, or things that needed to be addressed for that group?
Well, ironically, with the group of veterans, they were even more confident than the general African American population in terms of making financial decisions. Where there could be an opportunity is that 36% of them said that they did receive enough financial education while they were in the military. So there could be an opportunity there, I think, to help them while they're in the military, so that they're better off when they come out of the military. In terms of caregivers, with African Americans, they are caregivers for a longer period of time than people in other communities. And so giving education around how to manage your own finances when you're also dealing with a caregiver situation that could be a drain on your financial situation.
You talked about a gap in long-term planning with African Americans. Is that a reluctance? Why the reluctance? Is there just a fear that you're not going to have the money when you need it, you can't wait for it? What's the problem there?
I think there's more of a concern that you have to have money to live right now. And so I think a lot of African Americans are short-term focused, paying the bills, making sure that they can live and eat right now versus planning and saving for the future. So I think if there's some education around, even as little as $25 a month, if you could start saving, it all adds up, and eventually you'll be in a much better position than you would have been otherwise.
What type of products should they, with as little as $25 a month, what type of products should the beginning investor look at?
Well, a beginning investor could look at mutual funds. It's a much easier way to get into the stock market. Now, there aren't a lot of mutual funds that offer the entry point at $25. However, you can open an account, start saving money into that account until you have enough money to actually go into a mutual fund. So there are funds out there that do offer an entry point at $500. And so if you could do that, again, you'd be in a much better position than otherwise.
That's a great way to go. You also mentioned 401k plans. What happens when your employer doesn't offer a 401k plan? What are the options for a working person looking for investment?
So that's a great question. The great news is that 401k plans in the United States are being offered at equal rates to African Americans and the general public. But if your employer doesn't offer an employer-sponsored plan, there are things like traditional IRAs. The IRS has put in place a system where you can save for your own retirement. And right now, if you're under 50 years old, you can put upwards of $5,500 a year away. And if you're over 50 or older, then you can contribute $6,500 a year.
Okay.
So there are definitely ways that you can help to contribute and save for your own retirement.
How essential is it, or how important is it to have a financial planner?
Well, I think it's very important to have a financial planner. Much like, you have a dentist, you have a doctor. You obviously didn't go to school you didn't go to medical school, you didn't go to dental school, so you rely on someone else for that advice, and that's the same thing with a financial advisor. These people have been trained, they know things that you don't know, and they know more than you don't even know you don't. And so sitting down and engaging with someone that can give you an unbiased viewpoint of where you are financially and how to achieve your goals is invaluable.
If you had to bring it down to one or two major actions folks should take to start preparing for building wealth, what are they? What are the key things that you got to do? What's critical that you have to do now?
Well, the key things are first, protecting your wealth. So at the bottom of any financial planning pyramid is protection. So no matter how much money you save and invest, if you have a catastrophe like a death of an income earner in the household, or you get sick or injured and you can't work, those are devastating. So the first thing is to make sure that you have those protection products in place, and then you transition over to growing your wealth. And I'd say when looking at growing your wealth, attach goals to that growth. Rather than saying I'm going to put money in an account just to invest, earmark that money and say this money is set aside specifically for retirement, or for my kids' education, or just for my emergency.
Okay, good. And here's my final question. How did you make the transition from professional football to being a financial expert?
Very slowly.
Very slowly.
Well, ironically, I was a business major, so I had some business acumen. I knew about finance. And when I went to the Giants, I had a lot of friends who knew that I had that acumen, and they relied on me to help them make important financial decisions. So when I retired from football, it was a natural transition for me to go into the industry, and it's been great.
And what drew you to Prudential?
Well, I firmly believe that people go to work for people and not companies. So the people that I met at the local Prudential office that I interviewed at made me feel like they were going to help me to be successful. And then when I got there, the great news is that I was working for a top-notch company that had great resources to help me be successful. So it was a win-win all around.
Okay, I thought that was my final question. One more.
Go.
What's your advice? What's your advice to young people looking to get into this field?
Into this field?
Yeah.
Well, I would say get a mentor. You know, really sit down with someone who is in the industry, who understands what it takes to get started, and really talk to them about, you know, the ups and downs of the industry, because it's not an easy career. It's building a practice, much like a dentist, much like an attorney, and so understanding that you have to have a vision to build your practice, which, you know, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It really means that you have to have patience and understanding that you know, it's a grind. However, you can do well for yourself by doing good things for other people. And if that's important to you, then this industry is great.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.